Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody is well out there in YouTube land, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me. This is our match preview of the game between our very own West Ham United and Manchester United in the Premier League at Old Trafford. Duke may well be with us during the course of this particular broadcast. He's got some problems that he's got to deal with, so apologies for that, but we'll see how we go. For those of you watching either live or at your own leisure, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support. So, it's been a while, or it seems like it's been a while, because obviously the last game was rolling on towards a week ago by the time we kick off the game tomorrow at Old Trafford. Obviously, the last game didn't go according to plan. 3-2 reverse in the Premier League to Leeds United. And I think we probably covered off a lot of the things that in the post match about where we think we went wrong there. This is another opportunity, and a bit like one of the things that we was saying in the post match of the Leeds game was the fact that we'd had consecutive games in sort of like the week. We'd sort of like played Leeds in the cup, Norwich in the league, Leeds in the league in the space of the same week. Well, this week, obviously, we've had a week where we've not had any football since that game against Leeds, whereas Manchester United had the game on Wednesday against Brentford. So you sort of think, well, surely that should be an advantage. We're only going to find out around about 4:45 tomorrow afternoon, aren't we? But anyway, let's get down to it. This is how I think we're going to line up tomorrow. Now, this may be surprising to some people, may not be to others. As I say, this isn't necessarily how I'm saying I would line up. This is just how I'm saying how I think David Moyes would line up. Just seen a couple of comments come through on the live chat. Hello, Steve. Hope you are well. And Gaza, you are there too. Hope you're all good. Right. Okay. So let me add it to the stream and get rid of that. Yes, I suspect that Mr. Moyes may go 5 at the back tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him do it before, especially against the bigger 6 teams and especially away from home. And coming on the back of obviously a defeat, which we got last time out, I don't know. I just got a funny feeling it could be 5 at the back. Let's go full screen with that. Lucas Fabianski in goal. Now, again, do I think he should be in goal? Well, I don't think he's done anything fundamentally wrong, but I'm just now thinking that maybe this is the time to give Areola a go. But then again, having said that, the news came out in the week that it appears that he's signed another year's extension. So I'm not quite sure where that possibly leaves Areola, but hey ho, that's a discussion for another time. So Fabianski, I suspect, will be in goal. And I think we're going with a back 5. From left to right, Ben Johnson, Aaron Cresswell. I suspect that Kurt Zuma will be available and will be drafted straight into the first 11. And he will be central. And Craig Dawson will be to his right with Vladimir Kufal on the right-hand side of that back 5. A midfield 3, I suspect, of Declan Rice, Manuel Lanzini, and the returning Thomas Souček, who was obviously isolating against Leeds and also against Norwich. He was unavailable for both of those games, but he will be available for the trip to Old Trafford tomorrow. And then up top, it's got to be Jared Bowen. He has to be in, and I suspect it will be Michail Antonio that will be alongside him. Bowen might sort of drop in as a sort of like in the hole, if you will, but that's largely the 11 I suspect that David Moyes will go with, and I suspect it will be a back 5, back 3, back 5, however he lines it up, but fundamentally those will be the players that I suspect that he will go with tomorrow. Guys, in the live chat, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think that David Moyes is going to go with. Formation, personnel, any observations you'd like to make, get them in the live chat. Personally, I don't have a real problem with that lineup. Hang on, let me go that way. I don't have a problem with the lineup. I think that Ben Johnson could count himself very unlucky to have missed out against Leeds United in the Premier League game at a London Stadium last Sunday. And I think that there were certainly some questions that were fired in the direction of both Aaron Cresswell and Vladimir Kufal in the wake of that game. So I suspect that Ben Johnson will come back in. But as I say, I don't think it will be at the expense of either of those two individuals. But I think it will come at the expense of someone a little bit further up. I think David Moyes is going to sacrifice a little bit of offensive flair to try and get a little bit more defensive solidity. That's my opinion. Now, will this work? Like I say, time will tell. But just having a look here. For some reason, the live chat on my end, it's not quite working properly. It's a little bit offset, but anyway, Gazza's comes in. He brings on any subs later in the game. Let's hope he brings on Oko Flex and Yarma instead of Yarmolenko. I was actually going to cover that, Gazza. That's exactly where I'm at, because for me, I don't really see what the value is in bringing on the same subs pretty much every game. You know he's going to bring on Yarmolenko. You know he's going to bring on Masuaku, and you know that they're probably not going to influence the game, really. Are they going to sort of... If we were 1-0 down at Old Trafford tomorrow, with, say, 15, 20 minutes of the game left, and he brings on Yarmolenko, is that really going to get you excited? Is that really going to get you going, oh, we're going for it, shit or bust time? Not really. You're probably just going to go, oh, Christ, not again, please. Whereas if he brought on young Armstrong Oko Flex, if he brought on young Harrison Ashby, you'd have a little... I think I would. I think I would have a little bit more excitement. I think I would certainly be a little bit more... There'd be a little bit more optimism about that particular substitution. And Gazza's saying that... Steve is saying to Gazza that would be nice if he brought on Oko Flex instead of Yarmolenko. But do you really think that's what's going to happen? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Anyway, we shall see. Let's get on to the Manchester United 11. But that's, like I say, that's what I think we're going with. I think we're going with a back five rather than a back four, but we'll see. That's what I suspect that will be the Manchester United 11. David De Gea in goal. I think it's going to be a 4-2-3-1 formation, which is the formation that Ralf Rangnick adopted in the victory at, I nearly said Griffin Park. Of course, they don't play at Griffin Park now. They play at, is it the Brentford Community Stadium or something like that? Their new ground, whatever. I'm still a bit old school. I still occasionally say Upton Park. Anyway, so back four will be Alex Telles, who's obviously got that place ahead of Luke Shaw at the minute. Harry Maguire will have the armband. He comes back in. He started on the bench against Brentford, and it was Victor Lindelöf who partnered Raphael Varane. Well, I think Victor Lindelöf will drop out. I don't know if you've heard this, but while he was playing that game against Brentford in midweek, his house was getting burgled. And his missus and I think they said that his 3-year-old son, they had to sort of lock themselves in a room while the robbers were sort of nicking the family silver, as it were. I'm not a Man United fan, but, you know, on a human level, that's absolutely awful thing to have happen. And I hope they catch the scumbags that did it. But there you go. So anyway, so Telles, Harry Maguire, Raphael Varane and Diogo Dalot will be the back four, I believe. The double pivot ahead of that will be Scott McTominay and Fred. I don't know about you, but I think that Brazilian names are getting more crap as I get older. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, you had Socrates, you had Careca, you had Zico. Now you've got players Fred, Joe, Alan, Bernard. Really? I don't know. Anyway, that will be the double pivot, McTominay and Fred. So in front of them, I suspect the right-hand side will be Anthony Elanga, who's a young Swedish prodigy who's come through and has made a bit of a name for himself of late. On the right, I believe it will be Mason Greenwood, Bruno Fernandes in the number 10 position. And yep, that bloke is up top. I know he's 36, 37 now, and I know he's not the player he once was, but in my opinion, he's still a fantastic player and would walk into most teams in world football, in my opinion, Cristiano Ronaldo. Tell me again, let me know your thoughts. What do you think? I mean, that looks a bloody strong team to me. I think that if that's the team that we're confronted by, we're going to have to bring our A game. I really do think we are going to have to bring our A game. I know people turn around and say that it's not a very harmonious camp and this guy's only a transitional manager and all the rest of it. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. It does seem a little bit strange to me that one of the biggest clubs in world football have got rid of Ollie. They didn't have a guy to instantly replace him. They had a guy that was a sort of an assistant manager or coach under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer come in as the interim manager. He has now been replaced by another interim manager who at the end of this season might get the gig permanently, might not. And if he doesn't get the gig permanently, he'll move into a consultancy role. I just think it's quite ridiculous for one of the real sort of superpowers in world football. But there you go. Just having a little look down the live chat just to see if there's anything. Will Benny be on the bench or will Moyes leave him to the next game? Because in case anybody's watching this that didn't realise, Algeria, Said Benrahma's national team got knocked out of the African Cup of Nations yesterday. They got beat by Ivory Coast, so they've gone out. I think they was on a 35-game unbeaten streak, if I remember rightly, something like that, which came to an end during the competition. I think they got beat by Equatorial Guinea, and then they've obviously got beat yesterday by the Ivory Coast. So they're now out of the African Cup of Nations. I remember that obviously a month or two back, when Antonio went and played for Jamaica, basically the moment the final whistle went, there was a plane that David Sullivan had chartered. So basically once he changed, he could jump onto this plane and get over to Blighty a little bit lively. Now, whether David Sullivan's done that with Said Benrahma for this or not, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't heard one way or the other. But if David Sullivan has done something like that, if he's done the same sort of thing as what he did with Michail Antonio, possibly he could be available. I would certainly have him on the bench if there's any chance of having him on the bench, even for the last 10 minutes. He could be the difference between all 3 points, a point and none, going sort of like in our favour. Yeah, I mean, he may well be a doubt, but I just got a funny feeling because he has a good record against us. So, Steve, it's getting the ball past De Gea at the moment that's the real challenge. He's gone from being one of the best keepers in the world probably 4 years or so ago. He was absolutely at the top of his game. And then I think, if I remember rightly, it was basically from when he, funnily enough, let in a goal for Spain against Portugal in the last World Cup, which was scored by Ronaldo. Ronaldo scored a hat-trick in that game, and he basically let it through his legs. And from that moment on, that really seemed to be the moment that David De Gea's confidence took a real body blow, and he didn't quite look the same goalkeeper from that point on. Although, having said that, this season, as you say, Steve, he has been absolutely top draw. Socrates, Archimedes, Plato up front. You've been watching, what was it? Monty Python. That was a Monty Python sketch, I recall. I hope Ronaldo isn't playing, as I say. I know there's always been this debate about Messi versus Ronaldo, which one's the best. Listen, we're lucky enough to be alive watching two absolute masters of their craft plying their trade side by side, and one's pushing the other. They're in competition. There's a rivalry there. I'm sure there's a respect as well. There is definitely a respect between Ronaldo and Messi, but Messi will always want to be better than Ronaldo, and Ronaldo will always want to be better than Messi, and they're always pushing each other along. But yeah, I hope he isn't playing, purely from a selfish point of view. I hope that he's he's not even on the bench. I hope he's nowhere near Old Trafford, quite frankly. But I suspect he probably will start tomorrow. That is our head-to-head record against Manchester United all down the years, going back to our inceptions. We've obviously got the slightly rough end of that particular stick with 46 wins to their 70 wins, with 32 finishing all square. I don't think that's the worst record that I've seen in the world in terms of a one-loss differential. I think when you consider what Manchester United are as a club, what they have been over the bulk of our time, they're going to be ahead. That's no doubt. But I think that when you look at what they've got, their firepower, I don't think that that's actually sort of a shabby reflection on our part. I've got to say, that's just my opinion. And that there is our last 10 fixtures that we've had between us. Now, if you look there, there's only 3 wins. I'll grant you that, with 2 draws and then 5 defeats. Obviously, however, I will point to the last one being a win for us, which was in the League Cup. Now, I know what Man United fans are going to say. They're going to turn around and say that we played against their reserve team. But then our team was technically our reserve team at the time. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But if you look at sort of a lot of the games, they've been really close. I mean, you go to the 2-1 defeat at London Stadium earlier this season. There was a 1-0 defeat and 2 1-0 defeats last season in the Premier League and the FA Cup. Obviously, there was a 3-1 defeat, a 1-1 draw. So there's not really been any spankings there. I mean, sort of the biggest margin of victory in their favour has been a 2-goal margin, which it isn't a disgrace by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going to sort of like chat on and I'll just put the nuggets up. You guys can read, so I won't sort of insult your intelligence. You can just sort of get on with that. Gazza was our best footballer of my generation, and he's nowhere near Messi and Ronaldo. Yeah, I would say Gazza was probably the best English footballer of my generation. I would suggest, but Ronaldo and Messi are just on another level. Now, just to diverge, just on this one, Gazza, just really quickly, just to sort of go off on a tangent as we usually do. Bringing in signings. Now, yes, we haven't brought in a signing. That is true. But you know what? I actually popped on the way home from work. I popped in to see my dad, and we went for a quick drink and a chit chat and whatever as you do with your parents when you get to a certain age. And to be honest, I've not really kept an eye too intently on the transfer market at large in terms of the business being done, because I'm a West Ham fan, so that's what I'm interested in when all's said and done. And I looked, and you know what? There's an awful lot of clubs that have signed nobody. We are not alone. Now that doesn't make it right. I mean, as a West Ham fan, does it disappoint me that we're 21 days into the window and we haven't signed anyone, not even a loan signing? Yeah, it does disappoint me. But like I say, just taking a step back, we're not the only ones. And there are an awful lot of clubs that are of a bigger stature than us that are going for bigger prizes than what we're going for and have not signed even a loan player. So I'm not panicking. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, there is this thing of, is it the money? Is it dithering Dave? What is it? Because I just look at it and think fundamentally, we are currently 4th in the Premier League. Yes, I know you can turn around and say Tottenham have games in hand, Arsenal have games in hand, yada, yada, yada. Okay. But right now we are 4th in the Premier League. We're in the last 16 of the Europa League. We made it to the quarterfinals of the League Cup before we exited against Tottenham, unfortunately. And we are now in the 4th round of the FA Cup. I would have thought that there would have been a clutch of players. And I'm not talking about players of the caliber of your Mbappes, your Lewandowskis, your Haalands, and players of that stature, that caliber. Those players are not going to come to West Ham. They're just not. love it to be otherwise, but they're just not. But there's a class of player below that I would have thought would have been looking at West Ham and going, yeah, they're a viable option. I'd love to go to a club like that. That looks like a club that's going places. And like I say, 21 days into the transfer window, we've not made a signing, not even on loan. And I just wonder why. I do sit here and go, what's going on there? Because surely there should be a caliber of player at that level that would absolutely crawl over broken glass to play for a club like us right now. But then I have to take a step back and go, do you know what? In Moyes we trust. There's been very little that he's got wrong. Very little that he's got wrong. It could all happen in the last few days, and it does have a tendency for that to happen, Gazzy. You're absolutely correct. It could happen in the last few days. We've got 10 days left. So it could be an interesting end to the transfer window. But all I'm saying is there's an awful lot of clubs that have signed no one on loan, no one on a permanent. And a lot of them are clubs that are operating at a similar level to us or maybe a little bit higher. I know Newcastle have been a little bit busy, but that was always going to be the case. But yeah, it is what it is. Half of the time we'll get something out of a game with Man U. Yeah, we do. So tomorrow, am I confident? Nervous anticipation, Steve. Nervous anticipation. I think tomorrow's game really is absolutely critical as far as our aspirations of finishing in that fourth spot in the Premier League is concerned. I really do think tomorrow could be a tipping point. And I do think that if we win it, it could be a real boost, a real catapulting moment for us to finish in that fourth place. I think defeat would probably end, as far as I'm concerned, any realistic hope of us finishing. And I know you could turn around and say, yeah, there's a lot of games to go and we claw it back and this, that, and the other. But I just think that the other teams that have all got games in hand of us, I know that they've got to win them. I know that. But they've all got games in hand on us. They're not all three teams, Manchester United, Tottenham, Arsenal, they're not going to squander all those points. They're going to get something out of what they've got in hand on us. So that's just where I'm coming at. So tomorrow is really pivotal. Neil, I hope you are well. That is bloody early, my friend. He does. Signing late is what Moyes does. Yeah, I can't disagree. He does like to leave it late in the window. He does like to keep us guessing and frustrating us and making us all sort of tear our hair out. We bring in a striker, then he has to be number one and not back up to Antonio. 100% agree with you. I 100% agree. I don't subscribe to bringing a player in that is inferior to what you've got in your starting 11. For me, if you're going to bring a player in, they should fundamentally strengthen the starting 11, strengthen the bench, strengthen the squad. I don't believe in bringing in a player that's just padding. There's no point, in my view, in bringing in a Jonathan Calleri, in bringing in a Albianagetti, in bringing in a Lucas Perez. If they're going to come in, I want them to be able to drop Antonio to the bench or push Antonio to the wing and push someone else down to the bench, like Pablo Fornals or Said Benrahma. And that's nothing against those players. It's just that we need to bring someone in that's better than what we've got. Otherwise, really, what's the point? Green Street Elites, hope you're well. Yeah, thanks for coming along. As I say, I don't know what's happened with this live chat. It's gone a little bit crazy. My end, it's like I say, it's kind of difficult to explain to you guys because obviously you don't see what I see here, but it's just a little bit offset, and I don't know what's going on, quite frankly. Guys, in the live chat, give us your score predictions. Let us know how you think this game's going to unfold. If I'm being honest with you, and I listen, I'm a West Ham fan and I love my club. I think we're getting beat tomorrow. I think we're losing tomorrow 2-1. And you're probably all saying, Casey, no. Listen, I got to sort of go with my head. I just think I just think that tomorrow they're just going to have a little bit too much for us on the day. I think that Zuma coming back is a massive boost. I just wonder, though, is this possibly a game too soon? It's because he had a big injury, and we was all thinking that he was going to be out for potentially the most of the season, maybe the season itself. And here we are, 2/3 of the way through January, and he's going straight in a game against a team that is gunning for that fourth place at Old Trafford. And I do sort of sit there and wonder, is it possibly a bit too much too soon for Zuma? I don't know how much it has the COVID affected Thomas Souček adversely. Again, don't know. Whereas Manchester United had that game in midweek. Yes, I know you could turn around and say they could be tired, but I think that when a team comes out and says, "Oh, we played a game 3 days ago, which they won," and they then come out a couple of days later and say, "Oh, well, because we lost it, we're tired," I happen to think it's bullshit. I really do. If you talk to any former professional player, they turn around and say, "When you're winning games, you don't get tired." Right, this is the Premier League form table, the last 6 games. Let me just scroll in on this. This is another little nugget as to why I potentially think we might just come up short tomorrow. Not much in it, but Manchester United's form is better over their last 6 Premier League games. 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat, 10 goals scored, 6 conceded. Whereas ours in the same time frame is 3 wins, 3 defeats, 13 scored, but 11 conceded. Yeah, I see. It just seems to me that if you actually look at it, we're actually conceding an awful lot of goals lately. I'm not too sure that David De Gea is going to be letting too many in. I think that if probably best ways we can score a goal past him. I do wonder whether we've got it in us to score 2. It's just my opinion, like I say. Budgie, hope you're well, mate. It's obviously another account you've got there. You threw me. Steve's gone 1-1. Listen, I hope for at least a point. At least a point. And yeah, I get that if we don't play Zuma, then it affects our chances, Steve. But I do just wonder, all that time out, and that was a big injury. This wasn't sort of like just a sort of like a niggle with his calf or something like that. It was a proper injury, and he probably should have been out for the bulk of the remainder of the season. And here he is on when the game kicks off, 22nd of January, and he's going at Old Trafford. I'm just looking and thinking, how's this going to go? That's the Premier League table. I'm not really too bothered about. I mean, I could scroll out and show you that Man City are top, but you already knew that. But we'll just keep it down to what we're interested in. So there we are in 4th, but there you're looking 5th and 6th and 7th. As I say, Tottenham having 3 games in hand on us, Arsenal having 2 games in hand on us, Manchester United with a game in hand on us. And as I say, tomorrow I think is absolutely pivotal, because if we win, we go to 40 points. That's us not getting relegated. Not that we ever were. And putting a little bit of daylight between us and the rest of those teams, especially if possibly results go our way. But if results don't go our way, now here's the thing. You look at that. If we get beat tomorrow, then Manchester United will jump above us and go to 38 points, and they will still have that game in hand. Tottenham will have obviously games in hand, even if they I'm not even too sure who Tottenham have got this weekend, or Arsenal. Who, Tottenham? Right, I've just been told that Tottenham have got Chelsea. That could be interesting. But as I say, I just look at all those games in hand. Like I say, 3 games in hand, and they're only 1 point back. Do I honestly think that with 3 games in hand, Tottenham are not going to get at least 2 points to overtake us? Yeah, I do. I think they will. They seem to have really hit their straps with Antonio Conte, but we'll wait and see. But let me get back to the live chat. Epic, my day was ruined when I heard the Fabianski news. What? That he's signed a New Year's contract? Is that what you're alluding to? Or is there something else that I'm not aware of? Let me know, Epic. Brendan, hope you are well. Happy Friday to you as well, sir. Hope whatever you are drinking is cool and refreshing. Or maybe warm. I don't know. Whatever your preference is. And yeah, Steve's asking the same thing. What Fabianski news? Do I hold any hope of getting Lingard? Nope, because I don't see Man United will sell him to us. I really don't. I think that they're more likely to sell him to Newcastle, because Newcastle are not going to damage their Champions League aspirations in terms of league positioning. I think that obviously, yes, they could take 3 points off of them when they next play them, but that's about it. Whereas we could, if Lingard comes to West Ham and scores goals, gets assists, that ends up meaning that come the end of the season, we finish above them. Any fee that they have got, whatever the fee would be, 8 million, 10 million, whatever it is massively outweighed by the fact that we finished above them in the Premier League. So we got more in Premier League revenue. And if we finished in fourth and they finished fifth, sixth, seventh, whatever, Champions League money lost and we gain it, that's a massive, massive hole that they've got blown in their finances, and all for the sake of selling a player for 8 million or so to a rival. I think they would rather sort of just let him wind his contract out and let him go and have his pick of his club in the summer. Anyone that turns around and says, and I'll put this out there, because there will be people that will say, if he goes to Newcastle United, it's purely a money move. Well, I'm not being funny. Why do any of us do our job? We don't do it for the goodness of our heart. We do it for money. I'm perfectly happy, for the company I work for. I'm perfectly happy doing the job that I do. If somebody knocked on my door and offered to give me double my money and better facilities and better this and better that, I'm gone. That's the reality. So I've got no problem if Lingard goes to a Newcastle United because they're going to double his wages or whatever. Good luck to him. I do think that I agreed. There was something that James said, James Fatboy Fever, and he turned around and said, we used Lingard as much as Lingard used us. And I'm like, to be fair, he's probably right. I don't know about a calamity. Listen. No goalkeeper's perfect, Epic. And there are many other players within the squad that will get us points and lose us points. He made a match-saving save against Norwich the other week. So you can't sort of pin everything on him. But listen, I think that possibly, I don't think that getting Fabianski in for another year is a bad move. But personally, I think we need to start sort of like putting him as the number 2 goalkeeper, really, and getting someone else as the number 1, whether that's Areola, whether that's Johnston, or whether that's someone else. I don't know. Steve, don't care about Lingard anymore. He's been messing about too long. I don't know what the situation is, Steve. I don't know what I suspect that it's Manchester United that are playing hardball because it's us, and that we're challenging the position they are. It might not be Lingard. I'm not 100% concerned that it is, not 100% convinced that this situation of him not coming to West Ham has been entirely of his own doing, but only he knows the truth. Man United have brought and sold players with other titles in the past, though, Rob. Well, who? I'm struggling to think of any. I mean, I'm trying to think of. Have they ever sold a player? They possibly have, but maybe they were players that were past their peak. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, Budge. I'm trying to remember. Did Juan Sebastian Veron, did he go to Chelsea then to Manchester United, or was it the other way around? I can't remember. That's one that sort of pops into my head, but I can't remember which way round it was, in all honesty. I'll W money and give you better facilities if you start a Spurs channel. Brendan, cheeky. Listen, I'm married to a Spurs fan, so I'll get enough Spurs here. I don't need to start a Spurs channel, but I appreciate your input, my friend. Yeah, not happening. Absolutely. Tevez. Man United sold Tevez to Man City. Did they sell him, or was he at the end of his contract when he went to City? I can't remember. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he was at the end of his contract, or there was there a buyout clause in his contract or something like that, where basically, a bit like the thing with Chris Wood going to Newcastle from Burnley, was there a release clause that was activated? I don't know, because that's always the sort of the fly in the ointment, if you will. If you've got a release clause, if a club comes in, I mean, it's like if Jesse Lingard had a release clause in his contract that said, if a club pays this, then off it goes. You're off to the races. That may have been what happened. I've got a vague recollection of that maybe being something, but I might be mistaken, Budge. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I don't think that there's many times that I can think of Man United selling a player to a direct rival. And I'm talking a player that was still in their prime. I'm not talking like they were 32, 33, whatever, and they sort of let them go. Well, I mean, like, I know they've let, who was it? The Arsenal player, Mikael Silvestre. I remember Manchester United let Mikael Silvestre go. Well, I'm not being funny, but Mikael Silvestre was dog shit. When he went to Arsenal, he didn't really do anything there. So that wasn't really a big deal. So, but yeah, bought Mata from Chelsea. Yeah, they bought Mata from Chelsea. They didn't sell him. They didn't sell him. There's not. I can't think. Like I say, can't think of too many occasions where, like I say, unless it's been a release clause job where that they've got something in their contract that says stump up this amount of money. So they've gone like with who was it? Harry Maguire. Did he have a release clause of 80 million? I'm sure that, or Leicester said 80 million and we'll sell him to you, and they obviously bought him for that. Obviously, Manchester United, to the best of my knowledge, have never turned around to us and gone, if you pay this much, he's yours. Because I think if it had been a realistic figure, we'd have probably paid it by now. We'd have probably paid it in the summer. But listen, I don't know all the ins and outs of that particular situation. And I'm to be honest, I'm getting a little bit bored of it. If he comes, great, and I'll support him. But if he doesn't, and he goes to Newcastle in this January transfer window, or if he goes on a free and he goes somewhere else, good luck to the fella. I got no ill will against him. I think he did a great job for us in the time that he was with us, and it was fantastic, and I wish he'd have stayed, but he didn't have to. He was under no obligation to. He's completely within his right to go back to his parent club and let his contract wind down and get paid 100K a week for basically doing nothing. That's fine. But if he misses the next World Cup, he's only got himself to blame. Well, I mean, we've already got. What was he? 198 million, Neymar. So he was only 2 million shy of that. But okay, 200 million pound player. Obviously, with COVID and the turbulence as a result, it might be a little bit further off now than it otherwise might have been. But possibly within the next couple of seasons, there'll be a 200 million pound player, especially now that Newcastle have got the money that they have. If they stay up, then they could really go places. If he goes Newcastle, he doesn't go to the World Cup. Well, you say that. that might not be the case, because don't forget the World Cup isn't until November of later this year. So if he went to Newcastle in this transfer window and he was part of a upsurge in their performance, and let's say for the purposes of a debate, they ended the season finishing 13th. They then went out in the summer, bought this player, this player, this player, this player, made a flying start into next season, and Jesse Lingard was still an integral part of that. August, September, October. Now the season pauses at the end of October, midway through November, whatever, and then he goes to the World Cup still. So I don't agree with that, Steve. I think that if he goes to Newcastle, he still has a route to the World Cup, because it doesn't happen. If it had happened, if the World Cup had been this summer, I'd have agreed with you. I'd have said he's probably going to wave goodbye to his World Cup host. But because the World Cup isn't in this summer, it's in our winter essentially. I'm not so sure that that's the case. I think he's still got a chance. Cams, hope you're well, mate. Newcastle want him bad. Jesse wants to come West Ham. It's just us not making the move. Let's say, Cam, I don't know the truth about it. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm led to believe there's some issue that's holding things up and is a bit of a stumbling block. But I don't know what that issue is. I can only make a guess, and I don't want to sort of put that out on here in case I'm wrong. But listen, if he doesn't want to come to West Ham, if he gets a better offer and goes elsewhere, good luck to the fella. I admire him fighting for his place at United. After all, he grew up there at United. That's the thing. And as I say, you got to understand, he's a Manchester United fan. And in the summer, he was umming and ahhing probably, do I stay, do I go? And then 5 minutes later, who walks in through the door? His boyhood idol, Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, my hero, if you will, growing up, well, there was a number, but I mean, sort of like, let's say I was a decent footballer and I was sort of at West Ham and I'm umming and ahhing whether to leave, and in walks Tony Cottee. You know, when he came back the second time round, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to work with someone like that. Do you know what I mean? So it may well be that the signing of Ronaldo, although in a funny way, probably made his chances of playing for Manchester United less likely. It was the opportunity for him to play alongside and learn in training off of one of the all-time greats. Mr. McCready, hope you are well and fighting fit. The thing is, we were all expecting Lingard to come back and do the same as he did last time. No guarantees. Yeah, it may well be that was a purple patch in his career, Steve. Well, listen, if he came in and did half what he did last time, I know obviously that was a sort of 16 game spell, 9 goals and 5 assists. So he had 14 goal involvements in 16 games, if my maths and memory is correct. Now, if that translates to, if we sign him this window, the summer, whatever, and let's say we sign him on a 3.5 year contract, and he was involved in a goal every other game, goal or assist every other game, I'd say that was pretty good value for money, if I'm being honest. It might be an inferior output to what he did in his loan spell, but I think and the thing is, he's still a player that he's not had that much in the way of injuries, and he's not really played that much in terms of matches in first team football. So he's got a lot of gas in the tank. I think he's got an awful lot to offer as far as the game of football is concerned. Yep, Trevor Brookings, another one. It's Budgie, you're dope. Talking of all-time greats, and then you mentioned my comment, feeling honoured. But you should, Mr. McCready. They're just having a little back and forth in the chat. So that's me on Lingard. Right. So back to tomorrow. As I say, my head is saying we're gonna come up short tomorrow. It will be glorious failure. And ordinarily, if we rocked up at Old Trafford and played our socks off and got beat 2-1, I'd probably be able to take some solace from that. But as I say, I probably know in my heart of hearts that if we don't get if we get turned over tomorrow, I think that our chances of top four have gone. Realistically, I know that there's still a lot of football to play, but I just think that the deck starts to become more heavily stacked against us than I think we can probably cope with. And I know that maybe we might make a signing that might make me sort of go, oh, that's changed things a little bit. I don't see it. I don't see it. I think we're probably going to come up short tomorrow. I'm going for a 2-1 defeat. I hope that my head is wrong. My heart says we're capable of getting a draw, and I know we are. I know that if we go there and everybody's on top of their game, and if Kurt Zuma isn't as rusty as maybe I'm thinking he might be, and that Thomas Souček has recaptured a little bit of his previous form and isn't been adversely affected from COVID and yada yada yada, and that the poor performance of Vladimir Kufal last week isn't repeated. But again, I look at that and go, Marcus Rashford was one player last season, the game at London Stadium. He tore him to pieces, absolutely tore him to pieces. And I suspect that because it will be Anthony Elanga on that side. And I think that he's a similar type of player stylistically to Rashford. So I think that he could be in for a torrid time on that right flank for us. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. And we get the 3 points. And when we do the match review, you can all turn around and say, see, told you pessimistic bastard. You should have had more faith. But listen, I just got to say it as I see it. I think we're going to come up short. I think we're going to lose 2-1. But there's no shame in it going to Old Trafford and getting beat by a goal. There's many teams that will do that, and many teams that are better than us that will go to Old Trafford and get beat by the odd goal in 3. But as I say, it's just what that defeat would do to our hopes of finishing in 4th place in the Premier League. I think it would be a real body blow, and I don't personally see we would come back from it. But like I say, I'll be happy to say that I was wrong should that be the case. Anyway, I've been rabbiting on for quite long enough. Please, guys, before we go, don't forget the campaign for Isla is still ongoing, and you can always find the information that's on this banner below the description on both YouTube and Facebook. So please copy and paste it, put it onto your socials, and get the message out there that this family is in dire need of help. I'm not going to go into all of the details because all of you guys that have been with this channel for long enough know the story, so you don't need to hear it. And if you're hearing this for the first time, Google is your friend. You've got all the hashtags and all the rest of it there. But there's a family out there that's in dire need. Couldn't care less if you're a West Ham fan. Couldn't care less if you're not even a football fan. If you're a decent human being with a shred of decency about you, get this onto your socials, please. And furthermore to that, you have got a Just Giving link there. So should you be in a good place and you've got a few bob in your pocket, you've got a Just Giving link there. There's no donation that's too small, but as always, guys, give as generously as you can. And we always thank you very much indeed for your support on this matter. And as always, guys, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream onto your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please don't forget to hit the bell for alerts on new content. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support. I'm going to disappear. Guys, been a pleasure. Stay safe. One thing left to say, and that is, as usual, come on, you Irons.